والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Dear brothers and sisters, barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. And we are starting this live broadcast for this very controversial topic, and it is going off a post that I recently made with regards to sex toys and the permissibility of it. And there's been a lot of interesting messages that I received, and I will keep reiterating the objective of this actual broadcast because a lot of people don't understand what we are dealing with here. So I'm going to just set up here a little bit and be ready, bi'idhnillah ta'ala, to make sure we are good, inshallah. Please do like and share as we are, inshallah, ready to start. Okay, and I'm going to share quite a lot of things with you today, bi'idhnillah ta'ala. But once I posted this video, was recently about, the permissibility or of sex toys. And of course, you've had people who started talking about this, especially, funny enough, it was men and women. It was men and women. And as you can see here, there's an interesting comment by this sister saying they buying those things because man ain't doing the job. So of course, it will always be the man's fault because women are using sex toys, vibrators, dildos. Now, I know that this topic is quite sensitive, but there's a reason why I'm talking about this. All right, so there's a reason why I'm talking about this. So this is the video that was actually talked about. This is the video that was actually talked about. Toys in bed. It went a bit crazy, a lot of comments, a lot of people talking about it. And now here we are discussing this issue to put this to rest. Okay, so I'm going to allow for people to join. Please be polite when discussing this. And as you can see, some people are not very polite when discussing it. So for example, again, another comment, of course, from a woman. If you can get her up, just say that. So they have nothing else to say other than, of course, when it comes to real issues, people will start insulting. People will start what? They will start insulting. Insults are very easy to deal with. Now, so of course, women will never hold themselves accountable unless, of course, it's a woman who fears Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Illa ma rahima rabbi. No doubt, not all women are the same. We're not saying that. So, for example, it is the man's fault that women turn to lesbianism. It was a recent video that was released into the talk, the intersex, discourse and red pill. It was an interesting talk, an interesting review that was released. But basically, men were blamed for females turning to lesbianism. Now, men are blamed for women turning to dildos and toys. Men are blamed for everything. The interesting point that probably pushed me to make this broadcast in the end was the fact that it was brothers who were questioning me. Men were now questioning me and saying, "Oh, brother, how dare you speak for Allah and His Messenger? How dare you talk for Allah and His Messenger? If something is permissible, you cannot say it's impermissible." And we'll discuss that in a second. Let me just share this right now on Instagram to get everyone to be ready, inshallah, to join us, because it's going to be a good one. And by the way, if you want to come on, I will accept you to come on this live broadcast. But hit that like button and share right now. I will accept you to give your opinions. As long as you're polite, I'll ban you if you're not polite. If you're gonna be a woman and you're gonna show up and you're gonna be mutabarrija showing your stuff, we don't want that. So please abstain from that. If you're wearing hijab and you're okay and you want to talk, we can have you on our actual post. So let me just share this here with everyone on Instagram. We are live. Okay, please share this and please do support this broadcast. Inshallah, you can do a super chat. We can get your question, inshallah, and answer. So the first question that we get here before we get started: is it true that women have higher lesbian tendencies than men, brother? Yes, it is very, very true that women turn to lesbianism at a much higher rate, meaning to homosexuality or same sex, much more than men. And this is discussed in the sexual fluidity theory, and Elisa M. Diamond, in some of her studies on sexual orientation and fluidity, makes the proof and argument as to why women are indeed more prone to turn to lesbianism or to bisexuality. And just to start this off till people get, but basically something that sums it up: whether female sexuality is naturally more fluid and therefore changes from social factors, or social factors cause female sexuality to be less stable, is unknown. What is known that one of the two is true. So I stand by what I've said even in my video, is that females are easier to corrupt sexually. What again? Females are easier to corrupt sexually. And this is the premise of my argument for why toys are haram, why sex toys are haram in bed. Now again, what really shocked me is that men messaged me to argue from a fiqh perspective that somehow it is allowed. How dare you, brother, to say that something is not permissible? Now, the problem is with these brothers is that they don't understand the principle of fiqh. Okay, they don't understand the principle of usul al fiqh, actually. So what is this principle? Let us start from that. First and foremost, I want to say that I am not debating in this live broadcast the principle or the fiqh ruling. I want to say it again. I am not debating, because there is a difference of opinion that you can say. And I'll tell you where the difference of opinion comes from. I am merely supporting what? I am merely supporting the opinion that says it is impermissible, it is haram. So it's not me that have made the opinion. So some of the brothers have attacked me and they said, how dare you speak for Allah and His Messenger? It's interesting that it's about, sex toys. Now, I would probably be expecting women to be supporting that more, because women will be the ones that are using mostly these sex toys, and we'll talk about as to why guys use them. But basically, they've attacked me and they've said, oh, brother, how dare you say something's impermissible? This is permissible. They gave me, it can spice up your sex life, husband and wife, blah, 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 all these things, right? So let's just get things here really quick. Okay. So what I was looking at basically was to discuss as to why the opinion that I support is the correct one, right? So again, the usul al-fiqh principle, is this, okay? It is basically that anything in mu'amalat, by default, mu'amalat meaning dealings between people, everything in mu'amalat is halal unless proven otherwise. In ibadat, everything is haram except if there's an evidence. Do you understand? Right? So again, for those who have accused me of me making a ruling, I didn't make a ruling. I never made a ruling and said it is haram, because no, I'm supporting merely the ruling of the scholars who are saying that it is haram. And I will make the argument as to why I believe it is haram. So for example, let's take it back a step and look at, for example, when the ruling of cigarettes came in. So the ulama, especially in the Hanafi fiqh, have said that it's makruh. Why did they say it's makruh? Because the only qiyas they could make was between the smell and, of garlic and onions and, bad smell and so on, upsetting the angels and so on. So they ruled, some of them anyway, that it's makruh, right? Now with time, when knowledge of how this thing damages the person, right? How this thing hurts a person have come about through research and understanding, then basically people have started ruling that it is haram. So a lot of the ulama, they know the principles of usul and fiqh, and they will rule according to that, but they might not know as to the issue itself, because it's not been specified specifically in the Sharia. Such as, for example, the ruling of weed, marijuana today, that it's related to, there's a qiyas for khamr. Kull muskirin haram, right? Every muskir or every intoxicant is haram. And not just that, we take it further, the ruling of 40 days of your salah not being accepted. And this has been discussed by the ulama. But again, it needs to be understood as to what this issue is itself before a person can say, yes, I support this ruling or ruling. There's always going to be, in most things that are fiqh-based, muamalat-based, there's going to be differences of opinion. So my talk is not about making a ruling. My talk is about supporting the ruling that says it is haram. So the fatwa that's been given by Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen, okay, it's about masturbation and using other things other than the hands. And basically, he said that many scholars have stated clearly that some people may be using machine or dummy or sex toys, and this is also not permitted. Now, when I put this out, some people said, no, but this is about personal and self-masturbation. Again, you missed the point. The point is about the actual toy. Because if you use yourself or someone does it to you, it's the same thing. So if I smoke marijuana or someone else puts it in my mouth, it's the same thing, because it's about the marijuana and the cigarette itself. So if someone is using a sex toy to themselves, and if someone else is using it on them, it's not about who is using it, it's about the sex toy itself and what are the implications or the outcomes of using that toy. This is basically what it is about. Okay, so I want to put that to rest before anything else. So I support the fatwa of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen. In Ibn Abidin, in his commentary of Al-Dur Al-Mukhtar, he also support this. So you can find this fatwa and other fatawas, even from non-Salafi, from Hanafi scholars have talked about the impermissibility of this. Now people have said, oh, but why? Because everything this is permissible and the oral sex is, some scholars say it's permissible. There's a difference between a man, for example, pleasing his wife with his hand or even performing oral sex, because that's from you. Like, it's part of you. You are the one performing it, not a foreign object being inserted into your wife and penetrating your wife and violating your wife or even yourself, right? So that's the first argument that I want to make, and first thing I want to establish. It is that I'm just supporting the opinion that's been said by Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen as to that this is haram. So it's not Gabriel Romani making the opinion, it is a scholar, and my argument will be as to why this argument or this fatwa is supported and this opinion is the correct one based on the actual outcomes of using such sex toys. Okay, and the corruption that comes out of it, the emasculation of men. And that's what I'm saying. Men were defending this, which means what? It means a lot. It means how emasculated they are, how lack of self-confidence they have, that they need an external foreign object to please their wives. And I want to show you again the comment by the sister, and I do believe that there is some truth into it. And what is the truth into it? The truth is, what I would say, part of the truth is this. They'll say something like, oh, if you can just get it up, then just say it. Yeah, indeed, some men are suffering from erectile dysfunction. Okay. Um, some will say, for example, right, and this is true again, they buying those things because men ain't doing their job. How much truth is there to that? Well, if men are willing to accept and to believe that they need these kind of toys, then we're in a very, very bad shape, guys. And yes, with all the porn usage and erectile dysfunction and all these things that are happening, indeed, we are suffering now. And you have to understand, see, for women, it's easy to sit there and just say, yeah, we need this, we need that, because women have always been recipients. Men have always been qawwam and givers. And when a man cannot do his job, then what he's going to do, he's going to get someone to help or something to help, isn't it? But then instead of working on yourself to be able to raise your skill and ability, you are taking external support and help, especially in something so intimate as pleasing your wife. Not to mention, of course, that our testosterone levels are in the lowest. In the last 30 years, pretty much they've been halved. Our sperm counts have been halved. We've been basically not only intellectually castrated, but physically castrated. And people don't understand that this is not, oh, conspiracy theory, the Matrix, all these things. These are actually happening. Post 1970, the sexual revolution, the ones who have been the most empowered and the ones who have been attacked were females. So females have been supposedly sexually liberated. And the usage of sexual toys, of expressing sexual freedom, promiscuity, and homosexuality and so on has been higher on the female side. The corruption that's been directed at the female has been much, much higher. Why? Because females are the ones that hold the family pretty much together. They are the mothers, they're the nurturers. If they can be corrupted, then it will be easy to corrupt the family, the ummah, the world. The family, the ummah, and the world. So these things, post-1970 sexual revolution, females have been targeted, hypersexualized. And that's why in the study that I mentioned before about sexual fluidity, in the study of Lisa M. Diamond and other people who have looked at this research that has posed a threat to the LGBTQ community, that who hold that a person is born that way. No, the argument is that a person can be that way. And it's not just about LGBTQ, it's about, in the end, it's about sexual corruption. Sexuality, sexual orientation, it's about basically going away from the norm. Can a person be corrupted sexually? Of course, it's quite easy. And that is why, if you look at the story of Qawm Lut, it's not that the whole village was born gay, it's that they became gay. It's not that the whole village was actually exclusively homosexual, it's that actually they were able to procreate. So they did have women. They did have intimacy with women because they made children. But it was about an actual corruption of fitra. You understand? Or corruption of the norm. Anyone can become gay if they're willing to or if they want to. And you can see it today even more than ever. Anyone can be morally and sexually corrupted to go not for, just a man or a woman, or now it's going into animals, it's going into children, it's going into machines and robots. Will be like aliens now, okay? Incest, all these genres that are available right now. What are these things? They are basically corruptions. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاسْتَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. If you're not shy, if you don't have haya, you will do anything. Do anything. Okay? There's an interesting study also by Sabin Williams, Joyner, and Ridger in 2012. They looked at sexual orientation over a 6-year period, right? And they said that it's, that stability is more than change, but that stability was greatest amongst men than women, right? So again, I made that argument. People have challenged me, but they said female sexuality is more fluid than male sexuality. This could be attributed to females' higher erotic plasticity or to social cultural factors that socialize women to be more open to change. due to the gender differences in the stability in the sexual orientation identity, males and females sexually are not treated as functions via the same mechanisms. Okay, they're not the same. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى, and the man is not like the female. So the point of my my broadcast today is to show how it is to corrupt females. It is to destroy females. It is to destroy the family by doing so. And the males themselves, they've been emasculated. Males have been emasculated on all levels, especially white heterosexual males. And I'm not going to make it here about race, but we know that, for example, females have been hypersexualized. Black men have been hypersexualized in porn and in movies and so on. Females have been hypersexualized in porn and movies and so on, everywhere, right? So this is not done just like that. It's done on purpose. So men have been targeted, but through females. So now you have men who are coming to me and saying, bro, come on, man. It's okay for couples to spice it up and have some toys. Not just that, you have brothers who are Muslims who are appearing with their wives on certain TikToks and certain Instagram posts talking about how to use toys. And these are supposedly practicing Muslims. You have huge emasculation for a person, a man specifically, to accept a foreign object to be inserted into his wife. And for this thing to please his wife, it is a huge problem because it's emasculating. It shows that you don't have the ability. And not just that, it goes into also to show that women lose interest in their sexual partners much faster than men. There is a misconception that no, women are usually very, very they're very innocent. No, there is a study that I was reading that women do, they do get, they're controlled better by social standards, strict social standards, and religious standards. Meaning, if religion, a woman follows religion and she believes in it, and certain cultural norms and social standards, she will be protected against the corruption of her sexuality. So women respond better to these limits. And that's why if you look at Islam, it puts more limits on a woman than on a man, specifically when it comes to intimacy, sexuality, and so on, expression of that sexuality. That does not mean that women don't have desires. They do. It's very known now that women sometimes have more desire than men, or more complex desires than men, and that female sexuality, it is a more complex mechanism than men. We didn't know a lot about it because most of the studies were focused usually on male sexuality. But now with this empowerment, supposedly we've known more about female sexuality, and a lot of the misconceptions have been refuted that women are somehow by nature just more innocent and so on and so forth. No, it's not the case. But actually what's the case is that they're easier to corrupt. And even if we go to the Prophet ﷺ, saying about the hadith about the bent rib, right, has a lot of psychological implications in us understanding the female psychology and sexuality. It's bent, it's not really straight, right? And when we look at how the female brain reacts, for example, to seeing visual cues on sexuality, on sex, if you look at all the movies that are targeted, just the Netflix series about all kinds of things, you'll find so many different, things that are targeted at these, at these women. And how, because it's easier to influence them. For a man, he might see these things and he might go like, well, whatever, it's not really my thing. But for a woman, the whole romanticizing, for example, women being in jail and, having relationships with each other, some series like that as they've been appearing. I've read some of the comments and some of the feedback on that. Like, women have been reporting a change in sexuality from watching these shows. You barely see men reporting those things. So the corruption of the female is much easier than the corruption of the male, and that can be traced to so many different studies, as I have cited and showed you just before. There's a question here. I am present to an opinion to marry a woman in the West. Should I marry a liberal niqabi or a conservative Christian? Any advice? Wow. a liberal niqabi or a conservative Christian. It's like between a rock and a hard place. It's tough. It's tough because technically you are allowed to marry Ahl Kitab. You are technically allowed to marry Ahl Kitab. But a liberal niqabi, again, just because a woman wears niqab doesn't mean that she is good. Just because a woman prays doesn't mean she can be a good wife or a good woman. She can be a freak niqabi. There's all kinds. I deal with a lot of problems in our communities these days as a counselor, and I can tell you, so I can't answer that question, what to tell you what to do. I would say marry a good Muslim woman, vet her properly, and make sure, as the Prophet ﷺ said, choose her first and foremost for her haya and for her Islam. Again, brothers and sisters, please do like and share this this broadcast so more people can join us. And if anyone is willing to jump on and have their opinion, I would say let's go on, let's have a discussion. So please do refrain from using bad words, but I'll read this comment here. I won't put it, but I'll read it. It says, it means she was an addict before marriage. That's why she's using those toys. Okay, so yes, there is. I'm going to share with you. There's a statistic here. Okay, share of people who own sex toys in the United States in 2022 by gender. So you see that women are at 82% and men are at 74%. Okay, so women 82. So men themselves own these toys. You can see how emasculating that is. And let me take a moment here to understand this. So why would women be using these? There's a few different reasons why women would be using it. And people would say, well, these statistics are mostly for non-Muslims. Yes, but you have to understand that this, now I'm seeing it more and more. Maybe I had a different opinion before, but now I'm seeing more and more that it does trickle into the Muslim community. It does represent the Muslim community as well. And yes, indeed, women do. I think I was reading yesterday a paper. The earliest recollection of a masturbation orgasm is usually for a woman around the age of 12 to 14, maybe even earlier. And the first time she will ever get an actual climax with a partner, i.e. a husband, will be maybe later teens or 20s and so on. So there's a huge time gap between her actually experiencing intimacy and actually her experiencing a climax that is self-induced. A lot of women use these toys though, because in their mind they say, well, it's, I'm delayed, I can't, really get married, I need to do my university, this is safer because I won't get pregnant, there's, benefits, health benefits, and so on. It's not really zina. There's a bunch of, it can be a bunch of actual reasons as to why a woman would be using these things. So they can actually justify to themselves. But the damage that's done, the psychological and biological damage, that is, of course, refuted by some studies. And sadly, subhanAllah, when I was looking at these studies that refute that there's an actual psychological implication or physiological implication, they're actually made, the studies are made by some of the companies that they themselves promote these products. Okay, you will find that if you look deep enough, that these companies who are selling these products are the same companies who have sponsored these studies, okay, that are sponsoring, and they are actually, doing these studies. Now, so let us go back to this. So you understand, my main objective is to show how the corruption happens and what are the negative implications. So if a woman is using these products way before she gets married, of course, there's a conditioning that is happening. There's a conditioning that is developing. Not to mention, forget about the toys, but the scholars mention that just self-stimulation itself is haram, right? Why? Because it affects a person. A person develops a specific there's a correlation that you get an acclimatization, a habituation that your body goes through using these techniques. Now, when you get married, when you actually get a person in front of you, and you find that it doesn't work the same way. And hence the complaints. As this sister said, as I showed you, this is a very oft repeated, you know, comment that we see from women, of course, blaming men, that will say, well, they're buying those things because man ain't doing the job. Again, the fault goes back to the man. And we find that it is not only about intimacy and so on, that the fall will go back to men. And of course, we will take and look at it comprehensively. There is an emasculation of men, a weakness of men, where men are suffering themselves from erectile dysfunction, from so on. So the men now will go and say, they'll argue for it and say, well, we need to get these sex toys to please our wives so they can actually have climax. Look how bad it looks that you as a man cannot actually do the basic of a relationship. And instead of working on yourself and on your problem, you're now investing and supporting this horrible industry that is basically corrupting your wife. And let me just have a heart-to-heart talk here with brothers. Very simple. Do you think, okay, that, you know, that it's okay for you as a man to take care of your wife in another way than yourself? Do you feel like a man when your woman tells you you're not enough? Be that what she's been doing in the past, conditioning herself, yes. Again, they're blaming you, but many women who cannot actually achieve climax is because they've been self-stimulating as young women for a long time since they have achieved puberty. And that goes back into how our system is messed up about marriage. How back in the days things were very different. People used to commit to each other much earlier and younger. It's a huge problem. There's many variables in this problem. I'm not going to solve that problem today. But bottom line is that women will say stuff like, oh, the man cannot please me. And the reason is you should ask why. Why? Oh, it's because the man. Yes, true. In some cases, because the man. Because the man has been attacked. Because the man has been addicted to pornography. Because the man is not a man anymore. He's not strong. He is weak. He is not desirable. He doesn't take care of himself. He's not, of value. But at the same time, there's a huge blame on the woman because she's been playing with herself, for years and conditioning herself to react to specific touches that are very familiar to her. And now this guy comes on board and you have a person who's been conditioning herself this way, a man who's been conditioning himself the other way, put them together, marry them, and make marriage work. Okay, so are we surprised that most of the marital problems start because of intimacy? No, we're not. We shouldn't be. But the problem is, again, that usually women will be blaming men. Men will be blaming, they'll blame porn, they'll say, it's made by men, it's, men's fault, is this and that. They won't blame women usually. Women will be blaming men. Oh, he can't get it up. Oh, he can. We have to buy these things. And the funny thing is that men accept it. Instead of manning up and instead of saying, hey, I'm not going to allow these things to happen. Instead of actually saying, I'm going to do something about this myself. I'm not going to accept. There's a line of my honor that I'm not going to accept for something else external. A battery operated machine with different oscillation mode and different frequency to penetrate my wife. I'm not going to allow this to happen. Well, that's just to show how corrupted men are these days and that they have no moral standards and no honor about their manhood, right? So the scholars have looked into this. I've given you the fatwas. This is not my opinion. I'm just merely adding and elaborating and expanding as to what are the damages that are happening from these things and why it makes sense that it is not permissible, right? So, the woman is happy because she's getting her part. But another thing that is important to understand is that there's also now, if you look at the market of what's available out there, you'll find that there's no limit. And it's only increasing. And why is it increasing? Why is it becoming more and more and more? Is because a person does reach an accommodation period where things are not, you're going to use something for a little bit and then you're like, well, I'm kind of bored of this. I want to try something else. And then something else comes in. After some time, I'm kind of bored of this. I want to try something else. And there's always going to be something else and else and else and else. And it's not going to stop because the corruption doesn't have a threshold. Look at our culture, look at our society. Things 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago versus today. It's only going to increase because human beings, as the Prophet ﷺ said in the famous hadith, that the son of Adam and the daughter, of course, they're never going to be pleased. If you give them a valley of gold, they want two, till dust will be in their belly. Till dust will be in their belly. All right, let's look at the question. Assalamu alaikum. Please touch on the damage these toys have on women's sensitivity, like using vibrators and shower heads. A man cannot compete with that. Indeed, a man cannot compete with that because you're talking about different stimulation, different, frequency, different, So when a woman desensitizes herself to those, and again, there's studies that show, no, this is just a misconception. There's no such thing as desensitizing, even though many women have reported that. But again, the studies that talk about that, what's called the dead vagina syndrome or whatever, who refute that, it's again the studies who are sponsored by Durex and by certain companies that are actually involved in this industry of creating these toys for women. So yes, of course, if you understand academia, you'll find that people are just not doing research to find out what the truth is. People are doing research to make sure that they promote and they validate what they are selling, especially in big pharma, in the big corporations. They will sponsor research. They have research centers to validate what they are actually selling or promoting. That is something that needs to be understood. Okay, that is something that needs to be understood. Okay, so the corruption of females is easier. So with these toys, and again, what's shocking is that the brothers, the brothers are now falling into saying it's okay. You are literally forfeiting your masculinity, your honor. If you have your wife, Allah has given you enough to be able to please her. If it's a woman who has protected herself, Allah has given you enough to please. Remember, these toys don't hug, they don't kiss, they don't talk to you. But it's become such a fast-serving society. Everything is fast. Everything is just about the actual outcome, not about the process. So fast orgasm, fast food, fast this, fast entertainment, everything is fast. We've been conditioned to that. So now we're losing the relationship. It's not about the feelings, the relationship, that whole experience. It's just about the focus on just getting the outcome and just getting done with. Of course, for women, it will be better because they're the ones that they're the targets of this. You got like this thing and that thing and 10 different varieties or 100 or 1,000. So the woman has an ocean of options. As for the man, what he has to do, he has to accept that he is rubbish in this field and that his wife is basically masculine and told him that you cannot please me unless you use an external object. And he has to accept and go out there and humiliate himself by buying these toys and then go on using it on his wife. Okay, so does that sound like halal to you? People say, no, but it's, brother, you cannot. Okay, probably the same people arguing against me are the ones who are using it. And yes, it's a cheap shot that I'm taking at you, but hey, if you're willing to go on a Snapchat or a TikTok or a Instagram video with your wife, and she's teaching people how to wash these toys and how you guys are, playing and flexing your toys online, I'm sorry, man, you're not a man. And yes, there's a lot of things that could be said as to how we reached this point. That's not necessarily what I want to get into too deep, but it's enough to say that men have been destroyed. We are weak. And even our wives make us weak. See, you have to understand that a woman can push a man past the limits. And if the man is not strong enough, he will permit these things. And if a man just comes in, oh, let me introduce this or let me introduce that, it's not, it's usually the woman who wants something to be introduced. And if the man does it, then again, he is not a real man because he realized that I cannot do it. And if he just does it just like that, he's corrupting his wife. So don't expect then something good to come out of it. And what happens is, again, you will never be able to please your wife. Once she's been on this for years, you're never going to be able, as this comment says, to actually compete with the Energizer Bunny, with batteries that keep going and going and going and going and going. Indeed, women are multi-orgasmic. This toy can go on. Men are not. They're not going to be able to. But see, the problem is that everything has become about the big O as opposed to the experience. There's no more feelings. There's no more connection. It's all about, can I climax? And how many times I can climax, and I can count, and this and that. It's not about so of course the women will be like, well, this thing can make me climax 10 times, and you can only do it once. You're probably gonna climax before me, and so therefore, hey, let me use this. And how about use it on me? And how about we use it together? How about you even use it on yourself now? Because that's also become something that's quite popular today. So it's, yes, in the end, men are to be held accountable and responsible for this 100%. So I'm very harsh with men in many, many cases. Very, very harsh in many, many cases that we've allowed this to happen. People send me so many questions, so many comments about men talking about, oh, am I the right size? Why are they so afraid of this? Again, because of hypersexualization, pornography, where men have been described as being this and that, you know, in their size. So men are insecure. And not just that, females' minds have also been affected by this because they want that. They want these kind of things because it's easy to corrupt their mind. So now man is not what they see. Oh yeah, by the way, women are also exposed to pornography. And their ideas are easier, as I quoted, to change and to influence than a man's. Much, much easier. So therefore, you have these these women now who are lusting for these toys and other sexual deviances. Of course, the human being is wired to be attracted to what is haram. When Adam and Eve was told not to approach the tree, why do you think they approached the tree? Because they were told not to. The nafs desires what's forbidden. That's the psychology of sin. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala never even mentioned the tree to Adam and Eve, they would have probably not even noticed it. The fact that he told them not to go to it, that's what became more attractive. So now you're around these Netflix series with lesbians and gays and this and that and zina and and women are watching this, who are consuming mostly these shows. Women, they're watching it. They're easier to be influenced. It's not just because the Prophet ﷺ said so. It's not just because the Prophet ﷺ said they're a bent rib. That's how they've been created. It's not just because the Prophet ﷺ told us about how the man has to be qawwam over his woman to protect her and to hold her down in terms of controlling her. It's not that just hijab and all the restrictions are mostly heavier on women. It's not that we know that when the Dajjal will come out that the women will go, because again, it's women who have this. They're easier to change and to sway and to control. When the Dajjal will come, the women will have to be tied inside because they will be attracted to go. When there's a fashion or something, it's usually, again, led by women. Look at even LGBTQ. What's the first letter in this movement? It's L. It's women are leading it. Okay? People say, yeah, but man created it and this and that. It's not about who creates and what. Of course, Shaitan is the leader of all these things. But it's about which group of the two will be more inclined. It's not that men are not inclined towards corruption. They are. But which one is more? And that's why the imamate, the leadership, the qawwama has been given to men, because they're not so easy to corrupt. And again, it's not just me who is saying that. I was citing again Lisa M. Diamond talking about sexual fluidity, sexual I use the word corruption, but they use the word fluidity, and they're talking specifically with regards to female sexuality. Now, so let us go back to a few questions here, inshallah. And that is, Amina saying, is this for only single women? Why would a married woman use a toy? See, that's the problem, is that single women start with that. Once they get married, they've been conditioned. Now imagine, not to mention the different sizes, the different things that are available out there. So these single women, in their mind, what are they thinking? They say, well, I can't really get married right now, but I have desire. By the way, guys and girls, this is not novelty. Women have a lot of desire as well, especially in their young age, especially when they ovulate at that time of the month. Really high desire. But they're better to hide it or to not allow you. Rule of thumb, as it is, I'll just look at the citation here to give you that citation. But rule of thumb is this. The rule of thumb is that women basically do not. So when it comes to, it says Dr. Rieger, who did a study, Dr. Rieger, Rieger, said the wider conclusion of the study that he has done, while the majority of women identify straight, for example, they say that when it comes to what turns on a woman or what the woman feels sexually is not what she actually says. So it says there's a disconnect between what a woman feels and what she tells. Okay, this is the rule of thumb when it comes to female sexuality. In terms of men, basically men were basically more in line with what turns them on, what's inside, as to what they report. And he added that the research just said that basically female sexuality is just more complex than men's. Okay, and that's why I'm saying again, it is easier to corrupt. It's more fluid, meaning more things can influence it. Videos can influence it much easier. Usually you won't see a guy watching a Netflix about gay guys and being sitting there and be like, oh, that's so cute. Maybe I'm gay. Maybe I should try it. You might. Some people might if they're weak. But in general, the man, even if he thinks it, even if some thoughts and shayateen will whisper to them, they're not going to go and start thinking and ruminating over it. However, when I was looking at some of the comments and some of the statements of women when they watch certain LGBTQ movies or series, they were saying, oh, I realized that I'm gay because I saw this film. This is what made me realize that I'm a lesbian. This is what made me realize that I'm queer. This is what made me realize that maybe I'm a man and not a woman, right? This is what, so women start thinking, oh, it's so romantic, it's so cute, that's how their mind can be easily influenced. For men in general, it's not like that. Right? So again, I make the argument that men are harder to corrupt sexually. Not impossible. Of course, it is very, very possible. And that's why, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the story of Qawm Lut. Right? But women, much, much, much easier. So women should not use the toys as single or as married. And that's the problem. When they're single, they're using these toys because they think, I need to satisfy my desire. I'm going to delay marriage because I need to wait till my 30s, till I graduate, till I do this. By 30, when she's been using these toys, she's going to get with a guy who might be average. If she never used these toys, she has no benchmark to compare to, no standard. But now because she's used these toys of different sizes, probably bigger than the guy, because the average, I'll show you right now, the average... Bismillah, let me just show you the average dildo size, okay? The average dildo size is basically between 4 and 6 inches, okay? And the circumference between 4 and 5, okay? That is the average size. So also there's another study that shows that the average preference that women usually use in dildos is about 6 inches, okay? The bad news is that the average of the male is under that. The worldwide is basically below that. That's just the average, guys. That's just the average. Okay, you have to understand. That is just the average. So the average dildo size is 6 inches, 15.24 centimeters. The average penis size is 5.2 inches, 13.2 centimeters. And yes, indeed, it makes a difference. Okay. So a woman will marry, and then the guy might be not even below average, maybe. And what do you think is going to happen? She's going to be happy. She's going to be like, oh, honey, let's please make a run to the toy store, because we need to get some stuff, because you can pull your weight, my man. So now I'm going to need some plastic to pull the weight in. And women joke and have lost their haya about these things, because you can see the comments to my videos that they're going out there and saying, oh, if you can get it up, then don't even talk about it. Or if you can satisfy the women, then that's the men's fault. They have not even haya. They're so open about it and want to do it. And it's become so normal that basically, it's been standardized now. I think pornography is more harmful to men compared to toys for women. I disagree because women not only use toys, they also watch porn. So PMO, porn, masturbation, orgasm, it's always associated with porn. Do women watch porn? Yes. The problem is that a lot of women think that they don't report. But when they used to do studies before, it depends on what people report. Right? Women always under-report. They're always going to go down. Men always over-report. This is from statistics. But now with the tracking of cookies online and what actually females watch, you will find that women also watch porn. So it's not only that they use toys, they also need the mental stimulation to see, or they fantasize. So there's a connection between the brain and the climax. It's not only about using the toy. So I would say that it's more harmful for women because men usually don't use toys on themselves. There are some, sadly, who do, but usually they don't. But women use the toys plus they watch pornography. All right. So there's another super chat here, and thank you for those who are putting in the super chats. Okay. Do you have any advice on how brothers can vet for this issue before marriage? Is it even halal to discuss this as it's exposing her sin? This is the problem. Very, very difficult because it will expose her sin. Can you actually talk? So usually the way I see this discussion, like to ask about certain things, you can talk in the form of discussing about the corruption of fitra. Like, for example, let's say a brother and sister are in a discussion. I would say something like, sisters, subhanAllah, it's so sad these days that people are corrupted when it comes to intimacy and so on. People, there's this porn addiction, there's this LGBTQ, women are using toys, and see her reaction. She might say, well, I don't see a big deal with it. She's not saying that she's using them, but she might say, like, I don't see a big deal with it. I don't think there's such a problem. And if women are willing to defend this issue online in public, trust me, they'll be able to say it when they're talking to you. So again, you're not asking, hey, are you using this? No, you'll be like, hey, what do you think about this corruption that's going on in the world right now with these toys and these intimacy and pornography addiction and, LGBTQ and so on and so forth? What's your opinion? You should be like, well, I don't see a big deal. It's, sometimes just, and that's when you get your red flag right there. Or as opposed to someone will be like, yeah, it's disgusting. It's so bad. May Allah protect, the corruption of the fitra. Then you get your green flag. Okay. And you get your green flag. Now, why do their parents let their daughters buy these toys? They don't. You can order these toys easily online now. You got all kinds of ways to do it. It's easy. Just walk into shops. It's very, very easy. Okay. Haq Center says there's a scholarly disagreement. It doesn't give leeway to just go ahead and use these nasty things. The reality is that all scholars would advise people to avoid. It's more so a ruling issue. Yeah, it's a ruling issue. But again, I would argue that a lot of the scholars might not fully understand the research behind the outcomes of using these things. For example, some of the fatwas that are coming about, again, from a ruling perspective, they'll say penetrative not, maybe stimulating on the outside. So there's a difference of opinion there. I would say, personally, I follow the opinion that zero, nothing. If you want to, you go with just whatever Allah has given you. And if a woman, and I stand strong by what I say, has not allowed herself to be corrupted out of her fear of Allah, and a man did not allow himself to corrupt it, and basically a husband and wife can, inshallah, actually, be together in a healthy way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed them to be, in a healthy way, in a natural way. You don't have a standard to compare to. You don't have a benchmark to go based on. You don't have anything like that. Assalamu alaikum. Is erectile dysfunction related to the brain or a private part? It is actually related to both. So the brain has been basically sensitized by most likely pornography or other physiological problems. Could be just a sexual dysfunction that comes not even from watching porn. But yes, there is a connection, as a psychosomatic relationship. between the brain and the actual private part. Now, from personal experience, viral tweets mostly have female sex toys advertised and not males one. Yes, women talk about it as if it's a cute, normal thing, but men are embarrassing by its rightfully so. Indeed, I totally agree with this. I don't know a single male who bought these dirty toys. You'd be shocked, man. Now, okay, if anyone would like to say anything or like to join for a discussion, you can message and let me know. But again, there has to be some, if anyone opposes or things that they don't agree with me. But again, it has to be some rules. You have to be respectful. You cannot show yourself. I would prefer if you don't even open your camera and just your audio, and then we can, inshallah, understand. Now, inshallah. So let me let's just show if anyone's going to be on that, and please do share and like this, inshallah. And let us get back into the comments. I will put here the fatwa of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen rahimallah on the screen. The fatwa of Sheikh Ibn Uthaymeen is on the screen, as you can see. Okay. Now, okay, so let's go back to some question. What if the husband doesn't want to please her? You see, you have to understand that a man is responsible for this. So he has to. And this is a ground for divorce. If a woman is not getting what she's supposed to, she doesn't have to allow herself to be corrupted or to corrupt herself just because her husband refuses. In a like Darul Islam type of setting, the Qadi can validate the marriage if the man doesn't do his job. It is a ground for divorce if a woman puts herself into or is into fitna because of her husband. Okay? So that is something very, very important. No, you can ask, inshallah. You don't have to disagree to the talk. You can ask questions if you want to. You can ask questions if you want to. I thought scholars have mentioned it before that using these toys along as in using with each other is permissible, even frowned upon. It is permissible, even if frowned upon. Again, they talked in terms of permissibility based on a fiqh perspective and the fiqh rulings. Some of them didn't understand the depth of the damage that's being caused and how sexuality is being basically affected in the relationship today. And it's mostly women who are not pleased. If you look at in general of the research of who is not able to climax is mostly women. Okay. And this is being pushed over and over again through movies, through everything, that men cannot please women. Men cannot please women. Men have accepted that now. And of course, the people who have been pushing these videos and this narrative is now very, very much are the same people who are selling the solution, which is very, very, interesting. What advice would you give to those women who want to change? Want to change what? Depends what they want to change. Depends on what do they want to change. There's an interview by a sheikh who's been appointed by some Muslim country to figure out which toys to recommend to couples. Yes, some sheikhs have declared these halal. I would say that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Again, it's emasculating to men, right? It's emasculating to men. I would say if men cannot, and they can, they've been given the ability. If a woman is uncorrupted, if a woman is chaste, a man can actually please his wife. A man can actually please his wife. But again, see, people are, they are appointing these people to study and to look, as opposed to appointing people to study and to show how to strengthen men, how to get men back on their position, to be strong, to learn, to understand, to be educated on this matter, right? We're so taboo when it's to come to this matter and men's education. Oh, but when it comes to studying about the toys and to what women want, oh yeah, it's very, very, adi, it's very open, no problem, right? This is ridiculous. Jazakallah khair for the super chat. Have you seen a husband and wife work through this toy issue in your counseling clients? Were they able to save the marriage? Yeah, they can. They can save the marriage, but sadly, in many cases, it's just that husband and wife just agree and they just keep doing it and doing it and doing it. In the end, things change because people get bored. They can still be in the marriage, they'll save the marriage, but it's so emasculating. The man is usually suffering, he's going with it, but he doesn't feel like a real man. So he will have to forfeit his masculinity, basically, and his honor for the sake of the marriage and the corruption of his wife. So yeah, the marriage can work. But again, can people stop? Yes. There's been cases where they've stopped. There's a period of recalibration, and then people learn certain things and techniques they can do to be able to get back into, a natural way, and things can happen. Again, if a person tries to fear Allah and does what they need to do, Allah will help them. But if they keep on the corruption, then they will continue to be corrupted. It has to be clear understanding of the limits and clear understanding of halal and haram, and a willingness to know that in the end, I need to do the right thing. Now, do you think it's a lack of femininity is causing high level of emasculation and erectile dysfunction? I live in Canada, I see a lot of weird creatures, and the rainbow mafia is here. Yeah, indeed, 100%. I totally agree that there is a huge mafia there. Amongst the rainbow mafia, there's a lot of problems. Okay, it seems like my camera is a bit stuck. I'm not sure, so I'll switch to this camera. So there's a lack of femininity. You can see, again, when we go back to the study that I quoted, is that females are easier to change. Females are easier to change. Okay, they're much easier to corrupt. And another thing is not only by these problems, by food, by environment, right? So women are more masculine these days. Their testosterone levels are higher. Their femininity, because of even their environment and the way they act, is more masculine. Their work, their persuasions in life, what they're looking for, what they're doing is more masculine within a masculine sphere. So they will develop more masculine characteristics. I was looking at a study recently, and I'll cite the study right now. If you give me a second, brother Adil sent me this. So the study was on it was the behaviorscientist.org, and it was quality sex relationships birth control pill research effects, and it's called "Is Sexy in the Eye of the Pill Taker?" And this is Sarah E. Hill, behavioral scientist. So I talked about how taking the pill affects women and what they find attractive and what they don't. And it said that when women are on the pill and specific hormonal changes take place, that they will basically find the more feminine attractive as opposed to the masculine. It's an interesting research. I do recommend for people to look it up, inshallah, and to read it. Again, you can search Sarah E. Hill, Hill, behavioral scientist. Now, that is something that we can understand and look at. Now, okay. Inshallah, I will be joining the conference today via broadcast, inshallah. Now, okay, if anyone would like to say anything or ask a question live, you can, inshallah. Maybe if it's sisters, we don't open the camera. If it's brothers, you can if you want to. Do let me know if that's something that you would like to. We can look at that, inshallah. No. Right? There's a lot of people who are, looks very, very pious, but they're not. Toys are good, sex toys are not good. That's a very funny comment. Very, very funny comment. So again, to review, these are, the corruption of morality, the corruption of the body, the corruption of intimacy are the outcomes of using these toys. When you're looking at from a specific ruling fiqh perspective, the fiqh that's used or the usul principles that everything is halal by default as opposed to haram needs to be proven and evident. And today we obviously are seeing at the proof that is outside of this, the ruling itself. Okay, outside of just the ruling itself, right? And I believe as we go further and further into understanding human sexuality, what corrupts it, what changes it, let's not even use the word corruption, just the change as it's used in academia, we'll find that more and more we need to go back to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us in our fitrah. Sharif says, how to get rid of shortened refractory period or shortened refractory period. A good point. It is basically, if you're a man, I believe, to get rid of or to reduce the refractory period, PC muscle exercises, Kegel muscle exercises are very important. Being healthy, having high testosterone will shorten your refractory period. And remember, see, intimacy is not just about penetration and intercourse. It is also about stimulation. And a man has two hands, has been given the ability to be able to stimulate a woman, not necessarily just through intercourse. This is very important, that just because a man is now finished doesn't mean he has to stop. And this is something that we don't teach men. Most guys, when they're done, they just turn around and they're done. Okay? That's not how it works. That is not how it works. And I would rather people invest in having knowledge and understanding intimacy and what women want and what men want, as opposed to investing in toys and so on and so on. Okay? Communication is very, very important. What are your thoughts on current society, how men are supposed to be more sexually experienced and women not at all? This seems like it's made its way even in our Islamic culture. See, it's an issue of the difference of the two genders. A woman will not necessarily have a huge problem if a man has had sexual experiences. She's still, if he made tawbah and he is believing in Allah, is a good man now, she will accept him. But the woman, if she has had a specific sexual experience and past and so on, subhanAllah, there's something in the fitrah of the man that he's going to hold it against her. He's not going to. It's a double standard, you want to say, but it's a double standard based on difference of gender. And I've tested this with women in a university setting where I've asked women if they would accept a man who has had a previous history. And they all, if he made tawbah, they all said yes. All of them, without a fail, have said yes. It's in University of Birmingham. And I asked the brothers if they would accept a woman who has had a previous history, even if she's made tawbah, and they all said no. Typically, Islamically, you would say it's the same thing. Yeah, true, I understand. But there's a difference in how it is perceived. Okay? Now, that is a very good point. Men have sexually retroactive jealousy. Women have emotional jealousy. Indeed, men are more interested in a woman's past and her present, of course. Women are usually interested in a man's future. Women lack the pride and ghira that men have. It's not that they lack pride, or it's just that it's different. They, in their fitrah, can accommodate that a man has this, because that is the man's fitrah itself, right? So it's a bit different. Man is almost impossible. He will have to be a dayuth to be able to accommodate certain things. If, she had a past, obviously, and she's made tawbah and all that, the man, he can be mature and understand that. Like we look at Sahaba, the Prophet ﷺ, he married non-virgin women, right? But I'm just giving you the outlook of people based on just how they are and their fitrah. Just on how they are and their fitrah. Okay? MashaAllah. May Allah bless you. Barakallahu feek. May Allah bless you. No. Okay. Any other questions? There was a study which showed women with higher testosterone had higher sexual partners. I was looking recently at a study. Let me quote it for you really quick. And this study is quite interesting. It is, let me just quickly find it. Okay, so this study was done in Germany, and it says that the behavior patterns the new study found in hypersexual women resemble behavior previously identified in hypersexual men. So women are becoming more hypersexual. The environment is pushing them. There's just so much around it. Interesting, they said that these behaviors include pornography dependence, excessive masturbation, and promiscuity. Right? It's more like what men would be doing, but now women are doing these things that men do. And Reid, this study was done by Reid, R-E-I-D, said the findings are not surprising. In his own studies, he's found more similarities than differences when comparing hypersexual women with their male counterparts. However, pay attention here, and then again, my point stands how women are easier to change or corrupt when it comes to their sexuality. The new study found that hypersexual women were more likely to be bisexual than were the rest of the participants. In contrast, hypersexual men tend to be heterosexual, Reid told Life Science. Okay, so you understand. See, again, even when it comes to that hypersexuality, men, their fitra, their sexuality will be a bit more solid, much more solid, I would say. For women, it can change. There's a fluidity again. They use the word fluidity, they use the word change. In the end, what is it? It is corruption. It's a change towards away from the standard. Everyone has the ability, but it's easier for women to fall into it. The haram is easier, more appealing. And that's why, again, I make the argument that the rules of Islam are a bit stricter, a lot stricter when it comes to women. Women will always have these arguments. Why are women not allowed to go without a wali? Why do women have to wear the hijab? Why do women need the permission of this? Why do women need that? Why is it more restrictive? Because of this. Because of this. If you remove Islam and the rules of Sharia from a woman, you basically pretty much get what you get from non-Muslim women on spring break. That's what kind of happens. That's because that's what, what's happened. Without Islam, this is what you get. Why are we protecting our women or ourselves? Even without Islam, this is what you get with men. But still, if you look and compare, just gender comparison, when it comes to what men would accept in terms of perversion or corruption and what women would accept, are two different things. Two different things. Very different things. As always says, the sister I was speaking to told me how long I last, as she usually takes 10 minutes, and her past husband wouldn't last long. Wallahi, I felt so much pressure already. Got anxious due to her expectation. Yeah, it's a big problem. Yep, 100%. Brother Tara says, without Islam, you get the Miami 304s on Fresh and Fit. Exactly what you get. If you see the guys will have, of course, problems, issues, no doubt, 100%. But still, they stand to certain principles of masculinity, even if they're kafirs. The women, oh, did you sleep with this? Yeah, I slept with it. Oh, did you sleep with women? Yeah, I slept with them. I tried this, I tried that, I tried tours. I can try anything that I can do. You know what I mean? I can do basically pretty much anything. Now, do you think that it could be useful in case of the wife having much higher sexual needs that the husband, and only in that case she could use it or after intercourse? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think a man can have enough to be able to take care of his wife. And if any man needs to understand this, I have an intimate part on my Muslim Alpha Men course. Okay, sign up for it. Honestly, if men want to understand this, sign up for it. Okay, it's called muslimalpha.com. Go to it today. If you're a man and you want to understand how and what to do, and that you can, as a man, that Allah has blessed you with the ability, but you're not confident in yourself because you've been emasculated, take this course. Okay, go to muslimalpha.com, sign up today. Do it now. Now. Okay, so check out this. This is what I would recommend people to actually do. Brothers, if you don't know how to be intimate with your wife, or you doubt yourself, or you don't, then please go to muslimalpha.com, take my course. It has a section on intimacy and how to please your wife. You will really like it. You will like it, trust me. It's alhamdulillah, you know, and this is for men. Okay, my problem doesn't have to do with toys, yet she insists on being on top and hence being controlled. By this position, she claims to get more pleasure, but it emasculates me. About the issue of position is not a big deal. You can change. You can start in a certain way and end in a certain way. Yes, some women will receive pleasure or climax in a specific position. It's fine. It doesn't emasculate you. You can do it. Still you who are doing it, who is giving her the pleasure. Yes, she can be in control because there's a certain angle and so on. It's fine. It's not a big deal because you can still switch. You can end maybe in that way so she can, you know, get her thing. But it's a huge difference between toys and using an external thing. It's still you, by the way, who is pleasuring her, even if she's on top. There's nothing wrong with being on top. When the Prophet ﷺ reached Medina, the Sahaba were seeing a new culture when it comes to intimacy. And they came and complained to the Prophet ﷺ that the women of Medina, they were marrying women of Medina, they were basically taking it like sideways. It was like that was their position. And the Prophet ﷺ explained and said that this is not the only way, and this is, you know, come to your hearth, your filth, to your earth, meaning the cultivating place, which is a beautiful way of describing that, whichever way, except for the wrong passage. That's it. So it's fine. The position is not an issue. It's not an issue whatsoever. Again, guys, if you are in doubt about your abilities and you think you need something extra, you don't. Just take my course. You'll see a huge section there on intimacy. You'll thank me, inshallah. You'll thank me. What are your advice for brothers who are so caught up in the dunya with all instantly gratifying things that are becoming more feminine, depressed? Yeah, this is what we are fighting against. That men are becoming so weak and so feminine. Men are becoming so weak and so feminine. So we're fighting against that. Again, my course addresses that mindset. How do you raise your value? Not everyone's Andrew Tate or able to go to Dubai or able to have a Bugatti Veyron or something like that. Come on, man. But how do you as a normal Muslim can raise your value? Take my course. Do you agree that if partners doesn't have good communication between each other, they will have problems with intimacy, and therefore, how do you fix it? Is it fixable, or you get divorced? I agree. I always say 3 things for a marriage to work really good. Number 1, compatibility in iman, faith, belief in Allah, practice. Number 2, intimacy. Number 3, communication. If these 3, they're not the only ones, but if these 3 are taken care of, I believe 100% that it can change. It can change everything. It can really, really help. Are there any signs to watch out for when it comes to wife being bisexual? Okay, it's very, very difficult. Because I would say, according to the studies, most women are influenced by this today, based on what they've seen. So let's say a man sees something gay on TV or something like that. It's not really going to get him, no matter how much they romanticize it. Yeah, some people might fall for it. But women, it seems that it plays with their head. They start thinking about it because it's so romanticized. It's made look so nice. Men are being pushed down. Usually men and female relationships are made so problems, divorce, issues, man cannot satisfy. Oh, women are so, they know each other. They understand each other. They're so soft. They connect so well. So it's being romanticized more. So women get confused. Again, it's not about just being by default, attracted to women. It's that it's easy to change their mindset. And because they're more fluid in their sexuality, it's not that gender specific. You can say, as one study says, they can easily be attracted to the same gender, to other women. Women can easily, I'm repeating, women can easily fall in what's called same-sex attraction, much easier than men. Much easier than men. There's a very, very fine line that can be crossed very easily by women. Women usually hug each other. They're very comfortable with each other. They hold hands. They kiss. They hug. They even have sleepovers. All these things. Men don't really do that. We have a certain limit that we won't pass. Okay, even if there's desire or attraction or this and that, men will never give in to that. And again, nothing will be haram unless it's possible. Allah didn't make anything haram unless it is possible. So for both gender, it is very possible. The question is, which gender is more susceptible to it? And it is females. Much, much higher, much more than men. And that's why a lot of these series are geared at women. And that's why you find the comments. Once they go through this series, they're like, oh, I feel I'm in love. Oh my gosh, she was so hot. Oh my gosh, she's so cute. Oh my God, I can appreciate the beauty in her. Oh my God, I wish I would be like that. Oh my God, this. Oh my God, that. You don't really see guys be like, oh my God, oh, he's so hot. Oh my God, right? Even if some guy might be like, oh, he's handsome. He's never going to cross that line. There's a moral compass protection thing that holds men back. For women, it seems that it's not really there. It has to do something with their fitra, again, being easier to change. And that's easy, and that's why they're targeted, right? That's why they're targeted. I don't know if you disagree, but there are quite a few studies. There are studies, for example, on cues, sexual cues that are showed to females versus males. So the thing that stuck out in this study was that women who identify as heterosexual were actually turned on by pretty much every genre of things that they were showed, even women with women, men with men, all kinds of things. As for heterosexual men, they're only turned specifically by what they report, meaning women. You understand? So this showed that the neuroplasticity and the neural connections of the females, when it comes to seeing intimacy, is more complex and more fluid than men's. Okay, and again, my argument of that women are easier to change and corrupt when it comes to sexuality. I do agree, and this is what some women will say, that it's because of men and their abuse that they have, that they've gone into lesbian relationships. Like, it's quite easy for a woman to just say, I had enough with men, I'm gonna go become a lesbian. Men are not really gonna be like, hey, I had enough with women, I'm just gonna go become gay. No, men are just gonna go to another woman. Women are so easy. It's so easy to cross over. I don't know. It's just an issue of fitra. I don't know. It seems that even the research is not clear, but it is. What's clear is that it's easier, much, much easier to happen. So women will be like, you know what? Enough. I've had enough of men. I'm just gonna go with a woman, and she can easily push herself to romantically connect to a woman. It seems that it's quite simple, except if their moral compass and limitations of religion, usually culture, beliefs, will stop them. And that's what it seemed that the study was indicating, that women can be stopped and they will stop themselves, and it will protect their sexuality if they have those moral compass. Now, because Allah has been pretty much removed from the equation these days in these countries, morality, religion, and so on. Now it's very easy for a woman to cross over. For a man, again, because of his fitra, is much more difficult. Much, much more difficult. Yes, indeed. When it comes to female prison, not just that, non-seminaries, girls' schools, all girls' schools, you'll find high level of corruption of sexuality, much more than men, much more than men. So, for example, women going to jail, let's say they've never had homosexual relationships, they go to jail, they go to seminars, they go to girls' school. It's only women there. It's like they need to be together with each other, and they'll do it. Men will still engage, no doubt. There's high homosexuality rates in jail, amongst male jail. But when they get out, usually the man is just going to go back to a woman. is not going to really change sexuality. Some people will, yes, no doubt, usually the receivers, but in general, most men will be like just incidentally homosexual in jail and then move on to a woman once he gets out. The women will go in jail, maybe 2, 3 years, whatever. The experienced things women, when they get out, they're probably going to connect back to a woman. No. Because of masculine women, some men have started being attracted to trans women or cross dressing men who have perceived as feminine. Anime culture has made it worse. Yes, 100%. We've had quite a lot of cases like this where men report like men down, female up. And some of these trans women, supposedly, they are more feminine than women themselves and look more, take care more of themselves. It's very popular in Southeast culture, specifically Thailand. Very, very, very popular. And men, heterosexual men, will go there for this specifically, just for this, sadly. Sadly, they'll go specifically just for this. Okay? It's weird. It's very, very weird. But it is, again, popularized by, and again, I make the point here that even men can be corrupted. There's no doubt. Everyone can be corrupted in their sexuality, but it's just the point is that women are much, 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 much easier than men. But men can be as well, no doubt. And the more feminine and weak men become, and they forfeit their moral compass and their strength and masculinity, the more they themselves can now fall into this corruption, 100%. My sister asked me yesterday if I also kiss my friends. I said, no, we don't do that. Apparently, some women in their childhood, they kiss each other and play games that are very sexual. Yes, it is very, very reported that this happens a lot. Because they're very comfortable with each other, because they're very, close to each other. Men usually don't do that. Yeah, men will mess about and so on, but it's a very transitionary period. Me as a school principal, I've experienced and seen this with my students quite a lot, where they do these kind of things. Men will kind of get over it. There will be people who will be confused. There will be people who will experience a trauma when it comes to that and then have same-sex attraction later on in their life. But with girls, it seems to continue and maintain on. So yes, I agree. I've seen this, and women do experience and play with each other, again, because there's no penetration when it comes to women. There's no that kind of removal of their fitra to an extent. Women are much more comfortable to play and experience with each other. With men, again, even if you look in the Sharia, the had and the punishment for men sexual corruption when it comes to same sex will be very, very strict. When it comes to women, is ta'zir, or discriminatory, or a punishment. Yes, number one was watching porn. Number 4 watch category was trans. Yeah, in USA, number 1 is actually it's same sex for women. They watch lesbian porn. That's number 1. I think 150% more they watch it than men would watch it. That's how bad it is. And I can pull out the statistics if you want. Dear I went to an all-girls school, but Allah protect me from seeing such activity. Alhamdulillah, He protected you. I can tell you that even in Khalij and many places, in most girls' school, there's a lot of problems with this. How can a father teach their daughters to set boundaries? You have to talk to them. Same with mothers. Same with mothers. They have to talk to them. Okay? Akhi, do you think that the use of sex toys have warped women's view of intimacy, which gives rise to many women having unrealistic expectations of intimacy from men? Yes, 100%. I do believe that 100%. Yes. Do you think the statistic in Muslim countries of gay porn is accurate? Okay, so the way the statistic work is by tracking activities and cookies. If you give me a second, I can show you the statistics. Okay, I can show you the statistics. So in 2019, 2020, okay, the most viewed genres of porn, okay, according to Pornhub by women, was this, lesbian. Okay, so you see here, and I'm sorry that I'm showing you this, but this is what it is. So even lesbian is 147% more popular with women versus men. I don't like to show you the names, and it's a bit obviously insulting in what they're saying, but this is the reality. So you can see what women watch, you can see what men watch. Okay, and this is the reality. Okay, so again, why are women watching stuff? Because it's pushed on them more, and they're more curious and more easier to influence. In the end, even if a man might have a thought or a shaitan or shahwat or this and that, in general, men will put an end to it. They will not go there. Even if a man will be in jail for 10 years who has morality and strength, he'll not go into that kind of stuff. For those who don't, that's a different story. But in general, again, the argument is that men are not as easier to corrupt as women. They're not as easier to corrupt as women. No. Yes, alhamdulillah, jazakallah khair. We've talked on this about the podcast, about intimacy. I also have an intimacy series that you can talk, that you can see. And again, the Muslim Alpha Men course. Very important, guys, for those who want to learn about halal intimacy. Very good question. What's so special about Japan is that women are more feminine in Asian countries. So men are still looking, it shows that they're looking for femininity. While it seems that also women seem to be looking for femininity. So what are women interested these days mostly in? It seems that women are more interested today in women. And of course, this is post the sexual revolution, 1970, postmodernism, post first wave feminism, second wave feminism. The one that's been the most affected by, you have to understand, by feminism. What's feminism? You need to understand. The ones that have been most affected by are women. And indeed, it is basically the concept that it's not about equal rights, and it's that women don't really need men. They can just get toys, or they can just have each other. And this idea and thought has become quite hot and quite interesting for women. And according to the statistics, they do go for it, even if they don't do it in reality. At least they're interested in watching it or thinking about it in their mind, if not in reality. So, and that's why. So why do men look at Japan? What's so important with Japan? Again, it's because more feminine. Okay. No. One of the reasons. Is it okay for a sister to ask for BDSM or bondage? Is this healthy, and is it allowed? Again, where is it coming from? It's coming from like 50 Shades of Grey. When that book came out and that movie, Muslim women were going insane. Brothers were divorcing their wives because their wives were asking them for these things. I remember Tablighi brothers were having a hard time. Imagine that. Okay, so yeah, look, having sometimes stronger intimacy and so on, but there should be no pain and suffering and infliction what these people do. Sometimes some people want to be a bit rougher, sometimes softer. That's fine, as long as there is no hurting and no pain like that can cause suffering or damage and so on and so forth. But BDSM specifically is a bit different. There's something more beyond that. It's just that, domination and so on. It's something naturally that women would like. No. So you're selling it course, you pick and choose questions not fair, focused on women attraction to male. Not sure what you're talking about. I'm talking about both sides. So that's not true. I'm not just focusing on women. I'm giving you the statistics. I'm giving you the statistics. In Muslim countries, do most men watch, open, or engage in masturbation due to the fact that it's difficult to get married early? Men and women, I would say. Men and women. No. Okay, Akhi, why do you think transgender porn is getting more popular? It's getting more popular with men because, again, there's this, it's like almost like a safe position between where it's not really a man, but it's a woman kind of, right? So, again, it's the corruption and the step-by-step corruption towards an even worse sin. And again, because sometimes these so-called transgenders that we discuss sometimes appear more feminine than and more willing to submit than your typical woman. No. Grew up in Muslim country where almost every joke or anecdote between teens incorporates or hints to homosexuality. Is this common for all teens worldwide, or was this rare? Yes, I have seen this in many, many countries, many places where they start joking about it. It starts as a joke. Like I remember catching some of my students playing around like that, the boys, and I pulled them in. I was like, "What are you guys doing?" Like, "Oh, we're just joking." I said, like, it starts like a joke. It starts as a joke. It starts as an experience. It starts as a thought or but it can lead to so many problems. No. My father forced me to shave my face. Is there a sin on me? If he forced you, that's a different story. May Allah protect you. What is your thoughts on passport bros movement? Men going overseas to find wives. Why do you think will happen in the Western societies? I do understand that men are doing that. Men are going now looking for more feminine women in the West and the East, sorry. Pakistan, India, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, where still women are more feminine. And what's going to happen is women are just going to be left alone in the West. And I don't know what they're going to do. I guess with their toys and with their girlfriends. Sadly, that's what's happening. In the end, it only works one way. Women submit to men. Women stay in their positive feminine energy. Men in their positive masculine energy. Women have to submit to men. And the dynamics that's been pulled by Islam is very clear on the gender roles. That's the only way. Islam is the only solution to all our problems. When we go away from Islam, we get these problems. And sadly, people are picking and choosing on what to follow with Islam. Now, see these kind of questions, right? So sexual activity, haram in public, even if it's concealed. For example, the wife has a vibrator in her intimate parts, but she's fully clothed. See, again, it's like having a vibrator in you is haram itself. Forget about being in public. The public is a different story. But why would she have that in? Why would she, forget about waiting to go home now. It's like even done whenever and wherever. They have like these applications on the phone that you basically, start the process. It's gone. I told you, it's going to keep increasing. Not even about a man and woman using it together. It's now the guy's like somewhere and the woman is somewhere. She has it inside her. He can operate it from his phone and just give her a buzz here and there. It's crazy. It's just going to go worse and worse and worse. and worst. I do think not all hope is lost in Muslims living in the West. Not all of them are going to have these issues. Not all, but I would say now majority of women are having a hard time in the West. Okay? Do you understand? Hypergamy works to men's favor when they marry abroad because a woman's lifestyle is automatically raised when she marries a man from the West. I do agree on that. That is very truthful. I do agree. It is a good point, but there's no shame these days. We have to understand that's the problem. People have lost the haya, especially women when it comes to this, right? And I can show you comments on my videos of what women are saying. It's sad. I mean, usually you would have women not even there to comment on these topics, but now they're arguing for them. They are, going ahead for them. They are, calling for it, debating, saying that they're right, saying that's men's fault, the men cannot please their wives, that's why they're doing it. True. So what happens is women run after education, work, career in the West. Men will go to the East. It is very true. I don't agree with all these things sometimes, but naturally things will happen. When there's an action, there's a reaction. Okay? Is masturbation allowed? No, it is not. It is not. It goes from one to the other to the other. Okay? This has been answered many times. Brother Gabriel, I see this trends even in East. Maybe these new generations can benefit from marrying foreign women, more feminine, but the root of problem is still there. I agree. It is still there. In the East, we have huge problems in the East because it's bled into there, and they've taken it on faster. Here in the West, it kind of progress, but still, I would say it's not as corrupt in the East as it is in the West. Yeah, indeed, it is quite sad. My advice is just don't give up, man. Just keep trying. I got married very early. Keep trying. Keep trying. If I can do it, you can do it. Everyone can do it. Keep trying. What do you think of women calling a partner daddy? Is it haram or not? This shows a deep psychological implication. Of course, girls have had some daddy issues. Is it really haram or not, or so on? When if you're not insulting or anything like that, it's a bit of a tight thing for me to answer. I don't know, but but it is interesting that women would do that. Out of all things that they call their husbands sometimes daddy. It's again linked to that thought of something kinky and haram being a turn on. Do you see a rise of polygyny in the West? I do believe that more and more, but it's happening more amongst non-Muslims. It's happening more and more amongst non-Muslims. Appropriate to discuss sexual topics, getting to know her for compatibility, sex drive, preferences, whatever else. Again, it's very difficult because there's so many things that can happen, right? So it's tough. It's tough to just bring up this, discussion without going into haram. So, there are certain ways that I discuss in my course, that I talk about when I give counseling, that you can kind of get an indication of things, how someone talks about things, how open they are about things. But it's very, very difficult to just go into that. It's a tough one. I'm honestly turned off completely from Muslim women in London. They're all masculine slang. They have no haya, talking about sexual topics amongst each other, even with men. Hijab is too. 100%. I totally agree. They talk like men, walk like men, act like men. Bruv, bruv, no bruv, talking rough, ghetto, like there's some, very, very sad. Very, very, very sad. I totally agree, especially women in the UK, London specifically, East London. Do you believe men are polygamous inherently and women are monogamous inherently, or do you think we're both monogamous or what? I believe that men are monogamous. I believe that Allah has given men that. Can women have more than one man? Well, yeah, of course they can. Of course they have. They can easily. But because of what comes with it, for example, pregnancy and so on, it is more fitted for men than for women. Can women do it? Yeah, there's in South Africa, women marry more than one man. Women can have multiple sexual partners easily because they are controlling it. They can easily get it, right? It's not about who and this. I know there's been some scholars have said about the fitra. Yeah, okay. It's about what Allah has allowed, what He didn't allow. It's about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has allowed. Like, for example, a man can walk without his shirt on. Can a woman do it? No, right? Well, women would be like, well, some men without the shirt are very attractive. Yeah, that's of course. But it's again, what is allowed, what is not allowed. Where is the aura for men? What Allah has decided to allow and what He didn't. Can women be polygamous or polygamy and have more, men, more men? Yes, of course they can. And you can see today it's happening a lot. Now, cons of marrying women in their 30s when I'm in my 20s. Again, um, she's been basically, she had a lot more time to be affected by what's going on around. She says, thanks, most of my friends told me it's halal and I was not sure, even looked up the topic and some humbly scholars said it was allowed. I was generally confused. See, again, women will be telling you that it's allowed to masturbate and do all these things. Question is, which scholar said it's allowed? I don't see most, if some said that it's makruh, but again, even that, when you look at the outcome, right, it's not positive. It's not positive. Now, inshallah, we are going to end soon. If anyone would like to ask any other questions, please do so right now. And we're going to end up soon. Are all types of toys forbidden amongst wife and husband? I would say yes. I agree with that opinion because of the corruption and the desire to do more and more, because you're going to get bored, you're going to want to do more and more, and the corruption that comes out of that. And basically whatever I talked the whole time in this discussion. Yeah, women, the way they talk in London, it's a big turnoff. A big turnoff. It's weird because masculine men aren't attracted to masculine women. So why would they expect men to put them into their feminine instead of being feminine? Exactly. Men are not attracted to masculine women at all. طيب, inshallah. Any other questions or comments? Any other questions or comments? I'm not sure which video it is. I think I've seen it. I'll see if I can. I will. Inshallah. How can a man control his strong desire towards other women when he's married? By going to his wife, as the Prophet ﷺ told us. As the Prophet ﷺ told us. If a sister says openly, I last long, how much do I last or lasted? Both of us are divorced. Should I think her fitra is corrupted? Depends, right? She's been married before, so she's had intimacy from before. Allahu alam, right? It's hard to tell. Very, very hard to tell. Which country would you say last amount of feminist influence? Oof. Maybe some African countries like, I don't know, maybe. There's huge influence feminism in Indonesia now, in Malaysia, sadly. Huge. Maybe like Uganda, certain, African countries, women have less feminine influence because the guys are a bit more masculine, mashallah. Would you say Eastern European women are still very feminine? More than the West. More than the West. Yep, they do. طيب, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. We are reaching the end. Again, in summary, this is why I believe it is haram. This is why I believe that a man can please his wife without having to go for these things. People can stay within the allowed and permissible what Allah has put without having to corrupt themselves to go continue to test the limits. They can come up with all kinds of explanations. As I showed you the research, I showed you the statistics of what's happening in the realm of sexuality today. It is going down and down and down. It's not improving. People are not becoming more humble, more pious. They are not becoming more, how can I say, more, better relationships and, nicer marriages. They're divorcing more. They're having more problems. So again, the outcome has to do a lot with intimacy, with what's going around us, with the corruption, with social media, and all these things. Again, brothers and sisters, today's talk was sponsored by MuslimAlpha.com. Check out the course, register for the man, inshallah. You're going to get a lot of benefits, including some of the things I talked about here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you. Jazakallah khair. Subhanakallahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wallahu a'lam. Assalamu alaikum.